thought that it would be helpful prior to the debate on the budget tomorrow to give a little bit of background on the budget process, but also to give some context to what we have done. And I'd like to first take a moment to thank Chairman Heath and Vice Chair Larson for the really incredible work that they've done this year. It's really, you can't overestimate the challenge that was faced when we came here in January. And the fact that we have put together a budget that addresses the needs of Vermonters and also closes the $155 million hole without raising broad-based taxes is a tribute to their hard work and diligence and creativity. So I'd just like to thank Martha and Mark. 3 years ago, when the state started feeling the impacts of the Great Recession, we started to feel the significant challenges in our budgets that resulted from the revenue downgrades. Throughout this time, we have tried to be diligent in addressing the financial shortfalls that the state of Vermont faces on a almost just-in-time basis. When we started to recognize that we were going to have difficult financial challenges in our budget, we moved from a 6-month revenue forecasting to 3-month revenue forecasting. And in that process, tried to address our budget challenges as quickly as possible, understanding that if we did that, that would mean that we would actually be able to get in front of many of the problems. This year, as expected when we passed our budget last year, and if we had passed the budget that the governor had proposed, we faced a significant challenge, $155 million deficit that was the result of continuing declining revenues. It was also the result of legitimate pressures that we feel in the budget when you have an economic downturn. The sort of irony or the cruel joke of it all when you have to face declining revenues is that is the time when you need state services the most. And that is when people are out of work, that's when people don't have health care, that's when people need help from government. Nonetheless, we recognized at the beginning of the year that we were going to have to solve this hole, and we recognized that we were going to do it without broad-based revenues. What I've found, and I think we've all found heartening, is that everybody has been willing to step to the plate, recognizing the financial difficulties that we face. So the teachers union, the VSEA, members of the advocacy communities, the business communities, the administration, we've all come together to try to put together a solution that recognizes Vermont's needs and works on Vermont's strengths. And this budget reflects our desire to make sure that we protect our neighbors and our friends, but also do it within the confines of the financial resources that we have. And I'll leave it to Martha and Mark to fill in the details, but I'd like to just recognize that I think that we're in a very different place than we were a year ago in the process that played out. We had a unanimous vote out of the Appropriations Committee on a budget that filled a $155 billion gap. I think that if you had asked anyone when we started in January whether we would have a unanimous vote out of the Appropriations Committee on the budget, they probably would have said no. And it's a real tribute to everyone on that committee that they all agreed to row in the same direction so that we could get past the finish line. So Martha.
Thanks. I'm certainly open to questions, but I would just start by saying that I'm incredibly proud of my committee and very hard work that they've done to get us to the budget that's in front of us today. A budget that I think we all feel very good about. It's a budget that's balanced. It's a budget that agreed with a lot of the governor's proposals, but disagreed in places where we felt Vermonters were going to be harmed. And in fact, were going to end up they were going to end up costing the state more in the long run by taking away programs that help them live independently and with dignity. So we feel good about what we were able to restore. We also feel great about the fact that what started out as a projected deficit in FY12 of $250 million, we have now whittled down to $93 million. Won't be an easy, 94 maybe, won't be an easy problem to solve next year, but you know, I think we've learned through these past 3 budgets that when we work well together, we can solve it. And finally, that we have prepared for the future in that we have put in the Human Services Caseload Reserve all $62 million in general funds that will be freed up from the expected extension of the Medicaid enhanced match. While that hasn't passed at the federal level, it's in a bunch of bills, and I think there's broad agreement that it will pass. So having that money in the bank, if you will, positions us well for the coming year.
Mark?
I just reemphasize again that when we go back 3 years and the revenues of the state started to drop dramatically, there was sort of this fundamental question about whether we could create balanced budgets and maintain our commitment to our neighbors and Vermonters. And there were those who would say that we had to dramatically either roll back or eliminate some of the ways in which we support Vermonters. And I think this is the 3rd year in a row where we've demonstrated that we can have both a balanced budget and maintain our commitments to our neighbors, and I think it's a really a proud accomplishment. There's certainly tough choices throughout this budget. There are people who have contributed significantly to making the budget work, whether it's teachers, state employees, Vermonters across the board, but it really is, I think, a confirmation that by taking a multi-year approach, not panicking based on some of the estimates that we see originally, that we've really demonstrated that we can maintain our commitments to one another and be fiscally responsible to it at the same time.